Hello, and in this part we'll hopefully be finishing off this city here. And you can just tell this game, it definitely goes for a much darker tone. But before we head over to the Temple of Urath, we'll cut across this bridge here and make our way through the marketplace. Again, being quite careful to take out the guards one at a time. Now, I did like this experience, and something I do notice about this game is that a lot of the dungeons at least have a gimmick about them. They at least make an effort to make each one memorable for different reasons. So that is something I definitely appreciate. And of course, by the blacksmiths here, we find ourselves a medieval hatchet, which, yeah, I suppose we can sell it on eBay for a few bucks. It's definitely not worth using at this point. You know these, the samurai, the Iranian samurai soldiers here? You would think they would be a lot more intimidating. And the very first time I played the game, I actually really have trouble fighting them. But through this playthrough, I've got my act together, as it were. You know, really learned how to play this game, and enemies like that really don't bother me anymore. Now, something I was trying to look for is an FAQ said one of the tailors was hiding out in one of these alleys, and if you took that person, they give information, you know, a bit of flavour text as to why some people would follow the Prince Sornian. But alas, I didn't find him. But I did find this guy, and he's a pretty cool character here. Though unfortunately we never see him again. He's somewhat of a caped crusader, a one-man revolutionary. In the king's name. Yeah, this character he's took it on himself to be a one-man vigilante. So, and he looks pretty cool. He's got sort of a skull-themed uniform here. He's pretty badass. Unfortunately, he's not a party member. We don't see him again, ever. So, I guess unfortunately he must have died during this fight. In fact, I can't help wonder why they even put him in here. I guess he's just to add a bit of support. But anyway, a cool guy, just... yeah, and that's it, he's just there. Farewell, my friend. You are this game's Boba Fett. Or Jango Fett. And how rude, I was talking to an NPC and he comes up and attacks me. How rude. And I like his awkward walking animation. Well, I was saying that he is heavily bogged down with armour. And I guess that is something we forget about the sort of dark ages of history. Is the fact that armour is actually really difficult to move around in. You don't really move that fast. And something about knights I didn't realise was that the enemies they wouldn't necessarily try and kill knights, but they would try and knock them unconscious. They would just bash the armour until they fell to the ground and take them alive. The idea being that they would put out a ransom for their return. So yeah, they would fight enemy knights, but just with the intention of holding them for ransom. Which I find interesting. Although it does paint a poor picture if you're like a peasant soldier. You know, the big fancy guys get suits of armour and you're screwed. And to make it worse, they'll probably take those guys alive. Oh. I was hoping you would like at least join the party while we're in this town. Because some characters do that, but oh well. And this shop is where we found the guy who made the Stonefire lanterns. Yeah. And that's another sad thing too. All the NPCs we knew before, they're probably all locked up or dead, which is really quite tragic. And in a sense, you could argue it makes your side quests a bit less important. And there we go. If you didn't notice, Fleece just backstabbed a samurai. And that's essentially the tactic I was talking about. When you're fighting with Fleece, well, first of all, you need to engage someone in combat. And then you activate Trip. And then you run around while he's on the floor, then use backstab. But because the thing about backstab, it only works if you stab them from behind, obviously. But if you catch them unaware, it does a ridiculous amount of damage. And that really makes it broken in this game. You just trip an enemy, then backstab them. It's actually kind of ridiculous in its own way. Ooh, at least we've got a nice little shield there. And yeah, like I said, it's that backstab ability does sort of make it broken, but yeah, I do it anyway. It pretty much makes a joke of nearly all the humanoid enemies in the game, all the soldiers. And a section that's coming up quite soon, you know, that backstab technique makes it go by a whole lot easier. Well, I will say broken. I'm not sure if the developers meant it that way, because without it, you know, these fights would be quite difficult. I think they intended you to end these fights quickly with the backstab ability. So yeah, I just, you know, the game puts it there for me, and I just take advantage of it. Now, as for the trip ability, Fleece knows it, and Rosaline knows it, but yeah, I never really used Rosaline in any combat. I mean any hand-to-hand combat. She's best as a healer / caster. Now we're on to the Crown District. There is an interesting side quest here, which is purely optional, of course, but you might want to think twice before doing it. Not that it's difficult, but yeah, it's you know, sort of sneaking around this town is difficult enough. You probably don't want to make it harder on yourself. But being the sort of completionist that I am, it's something I'm definitely in favour of doing. Oh, and Fleece, I loved how you attacked him by yourself. Yeah, the enemy AI is a bit tricky about that sort of thing. Your friends will just run up to an enemy and attack them if they're in range. So always lead with your controlling character. And speaking of which, something I don't do too much of in this playthrough is control other characters besides Joseph. Usually because in combat it's best to get enemies to attack him, and they do attack the person you're controlling. In hindsight, I guess I could have controlled a bit more as Jakar, or use switching techniques. Like I said this before, Rosalind, the healer caster, she doesn't always use the best spells that you need. You know, she either won't heal you when you really need it, or she'll cast the wrong elemental magic. So I guess it's a good idea to like play as Joseph and Jakar, attack the enemies, and then switch to Rosalind, then to heal or cast the right spell, and then switch to Fleece to use backstab. So granted, well, I was saying that you switch characters with the R1 and L1 buttons, but they're kind of clumsy. Like, you press it and it doesn't really respond. So to me at least, switching between characters in mid-battle is somewhat clumsy. Or at least it is on the PS2 version, so yeah, that's just something I'm not 100% on. Now, as before in the previous area, you have to make sure you don't attract too many enemies at once. Like, try and attack them in groups of threes. Because there's like a group of guys here, and just a little short distance away there's another group of guys. And yeah, you don't want to take all 6 on them at once. But yeah, that's rule 1 of this game anyway. Try to avoid being outnumbered. You know, I am being quite methodical here. I mean, I don't go through the entire city, but I go through pretty much all of it. Although, from what I gather, the one area I don't want to liberate, I guess, is the sort of park area, which is the other side of the Crown District. But yeah, there's no side quests there, so I didn't bother. Well, honestly, not to sound cocky, I could... Between the three of us, we could liberate the city quite easily. Yeah, just being very careful here. Now, this guy here wins the award for officially the most smartest enemy in a video game ever. Because he sees us, but he actually realises he probably shouldn't take us on. So he lets us off easy. He does ask for a small bribe, of course. Now, I don't know if you can fight this guy. I just gave him the bribe because I'm playing it cool and subtle. But there we go, he's the world's smartest enemy. He's the only one that just gives up. You see, are you watching this, Goombas? Just don't bother running into Mario. Or at least, you know what, Goombas, wear a spiked helmet. That would really screw Mario over. Well, unless he picks up a Koopa shell, but here's what you do with that. You tell the Koopas to go away. But anyway, enough about the strategy and the politics of the Mushroom Kingdom. We're on about this kingdom. Now, I was talking before about a side quest, and you'll never guess what it is. It's everybody's favourite type of side quest, an escort mission. Yep, we meet this woman called Adelanzi, and we just escort her through the city. So, I guess it's a good idea that we take out the enemies as we travel through. Because then it just becomes a simple walking mission. Although, I don't really know what she's worrying about. The enemies just seem to ignore the NPCs here. Yeah, but this is the sort of path she takes here. She's here and she walked along the river, or the canals here. Pointless fact, in England, in the West Midlands, a canal is often called the Cut. Yep. I don't know what I expect you to do with that information, but yeah, we used to go down in to the Cut and jump in the water. You know, from what I remember, the Cut is, if you don't know, it's kind of like man-made rivers, where barges used to, I guess, transport stuff up and down the country along them. And yeah, I remember as a child, they used to be quite dirty, mucky rivers. Although my mom, when she was younger, she said she used to swim in the Cut. So yeah, I'm not sure where all the filth came from. Apparently the canal was cleaner during the industrialised 50s or something. Or 70s. Yeah, it's the 70s, I guess. Then again, since they are man-made rivers, wouldn't they be dirty anyway? I mean, it's not like they're going to be full of chlorine and the like. You see, this mission is so simple. I've resorted to talking about water and how dirty it is. You see, I'm like the makers of this game. I'm obsessed with like sewers and the like. Oh, come on. You know, this is a very dangerous mission, and it probably would go a lot faster if you didn't casually stroll. I was walking through the park one day, in the early month of May. I was taken by surprise by a bunch of almond guys and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, I was saying before that it's a shame that we don't see any of the beggars we saw on the streets before. Presumably because of the curfew. If they were caught outside, they would probably be killed, unfortunately. So I think it's a shame we didn't see any of the beggars in the alleys here. Now I think these guys come out of nowhere, and it's pretty much the only fight which you get summoned because of escorting this person here. Oh, and this is vitalising action. Just a reminder, it does heal your whole party, so it's very useful. Now, if you're wondering, I don't think you see this person again. Well, I was saying that I'm not sure where you would see her again, but, yeah, there you go. Now, before, there isn't any side quests in the main game which involve, escorting someone, but if you're travelling on the world map, there are a few, what's the word? Oh yeah, random encounters, where you'll meet some friendly NPCs who will walk along the map and kill enemies with you. So I guess that could be argued those are escort missions. Hooray, we've made it. You know, although she doesn't seem really seem safe there, just you know, a couple more feet there. And we find out she's a fancy lady of the realm, so yeah, there we go. Okay, with the side quests completed in the city, we will now move on to the Temple of Urath, and finally find out what to do when we talk to Yargo. So the next boss should be a very critical point in the story. Please join me then.